Hello, today I'm going to be showing you how to install SilentiumPC's latest 240mm AIO. It's the Navis F240 ARGB, and there's also a non-ARGB version as well. At the end of the video I'm also going to be doing a little bit of thermal testing, so make sure you stick to the end to see how it performs. So I've just taken the AIO out of the box and I am really pleasantly surprised to see that our fans are actually pre-installed to the radiator. I'm somebody who's built an awful lot of PCs, installed an absolutely load of CPU coolers, and this is the first time I've ever seen anybody do this. And now that I'm seeing it, I can't understand why others aren't doing it. It's absolutely brilliant. Not only that, but the fans daisy chain together and the PWM connectors are already connected up and the cables have been hidden nicely in behind the screws here. So this is absolutely brilliant. So this is our 4-pin PWM connector here. As we've mentioned, these two are already daisy chained together. So all we're going to need to do is plug in this longer connector into here. And then we've got a 4-pin PWM connector which is going to go into our CPU fan header. Coming from each of our fans, we've got a standard 3-pin 5V ARGB connector. And again, we can daisy chain them together. So all we need to do is remove the protective covering here. And then we can join this up with our second fan. So we'll line them up the right way, making sure the arrows line up and then push them in together. And if you did have another ARGB connector for something else in your PC, it's just a simple matter of adding it in here. And then we're going to plug this 3-pin 5V ARGB connector into one of the ARGB headers on our motherboard. If your motherboard doesn't have an ARGB connector, SilentiumPC have thought of this. All you would need to do is plug it into the included controller. So that's the controller here. You'll notice the controller itself doesn't actually have any buttons on it, and that is because you plug your reset switch into here. The cable coming from it will normally go into your motherboard, and then when you press the reset button on top of your case, it resets the PC. If you actually plug it into here, then when you press the reset switch, it's going to switch through the various ARGB effects that are built into the controller. If you want to use this controller, the only thing you would need to do is plug the other end into your power supply. The final thing for us to take a look at is the pump itself, and we've got two wires coming from this. One is a SATA connector we're going to have to plug into a SATA cable coming from our power supply, and the other is a 4-pin PWM connector which we're going to plug into our pump header on the motherboard. Next we can install the CPU cooler's backplate. We're going to install it with the rubber pads facing down towards the motherboard, so it's just a matter of lining things up at the back. Then we've got one of these standoffs to screw onto each corner. Then we need to add some thermal paste to the centre of the CPU. It is included with the cooler. Before we install the cooler, we just need to remove the plastic protection, and then we can lower the pump down into place. Then on each corner we need to put one of these springs, and then we've got a little thumb screw to go on top. Then we need to connect the 4-pin PWM cable coming from our fans on the radiator to the CPU fan header, the 4-pin PWM cable coming from our pump to the pump header, and we've got a choice. We can connect the ARGB cable up to an ARGB header on our motherboard, and we'll use our motherboard then to control the ARGB lighting on the fans. If we want to use the included controller, we just need to plug the included controller into the SATA cable coming from our power supply, and as well into the same SATA cable we're going to plug the SATA cable coming from our pump. Last thing to do would be to plug the reset switch coming from our case into the ARGB controller. Okay, so that's everything set up, and setting it up was really straightforward. I think it's probably one of the easiest AIOs I've installed. Having the fans pre-installed on the radiator and some of the wiring already done for you really simplify the installation process. What you'll notice is we don't actually have any ARGB effects on the pump itself. The only ARGB is on the fans, and I'll show you the range of ARGB effects we get with the built-in controller in a minute. I have been thinking to myself, I think the non-ARGB version of this would actually look really good. Given that you don't have any ARGB in the pump, I think actually it might look slightly better, and it's going to be a little bit cheaper as well. In terms of temperatures, I have done a 10-minute IDA64 stability test. We're on an open bench, and I've got a 12700K here. The maximum CPU temperature we got during the 10-minute IDA64 stability test, with everything being stressed, was 80 degrees, which is very acceptable for an open bench with a 12700K. So first impressions of the AIO are all fairly good. I will get it into a build on the channel at some point. I'm going to finish the video off now by showing you the ARGB effects using the included controller. So if you have found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not currently subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching.